Hi, you've clicked on to today's tropical tidbit for Saturday. Got a tropical wave moved into Central America over here in weekend as expected. Tropical wave moving into the Central Caribbean. It's becoming de-amplified from the strong trade wind flow like the previous one and losing a lot of convection, but this one will still have to be watched as it gets into the Western Caribbean in an area that is better ventilated for development. Although the straight west flow in here will probably take this west, and that is the thing limiting development potential, is that this will not have a chance to really sit in here, which is what you like tropical waves to do, to develop in the Western Caribbean, but this will be going straight west following this one. Our front up here, no major lows, trying to organize, had a blob of convection blow up last night, but it wasn't the kind that could really try to feed back and develop. So this isn't too much of a threat. Old fronts always need to be watched off the southeast coast, but I don't see too much coming out of this tropically right now. Big story will remain Invest 90L over here in the eastern Atlantic, and for some reason they deactivated this overnight, even though the Hurricane Center is still calling for a 20% development chance for this whole area out here. But they deactivated the Invest, and that was probably a good call, because the center of this thing, let's go up close, the center of this thing was up here last night, kind of dissipated, but it reformed down here this morning. And if you get these things to come up here, try to leave the intertropical convergence zone and then dissipate up here and then reform down here, it means they don't want to leave the intertropical convergence zone, and they can't support themselves on their own. So deactivating the Invest, okay, that's fine. There's no criteria for them. But this is still a very well-defined system, and it's healthier than yesterday, to be honest. Even though it's embedded within the ITCZ, you've got a well-defined spin here, more convection overall, and this area will have to be watched. Here on the Africa loop, which is finally working again, you can see that this tropical wave coming south of the Cape Verde Islands is coming off Africa. Here's what's left of 90L over here in this circulation, and this has a nice mid-level rotation to it, and this will be coming west. And this whole thing will be conglomerating over here as these two catch up to each other, because this is still moving very little. Movement to the westward will remain slow over the next day or two, and this will have a chance to catch up. They will conglomerate, and there's still a good chance in my mind for something to try to spin up here, and once this tries to lift north and move northwest, this will be something to watch. Movement of this whole thing should be slow for the next couple of days, and then a gradual movement west-northwest, and I think this will end up somewhere near the northern half of the Antilles Islands over here in 5 to 6 days, and this will be something to watch. There's some dry air up here, but it's not really that bad. It's not dust-laden air mass that's getting injected in from the north. It is a little dry up here, but once this gets farther west and starts gaining latitude, if it can sustain itself as a low pressure area without depending on the intertropical convergence zone, this will be something to watch. I have said that this would be very slow to organize. You weren't going to see a depression during the first several days, and that this would take its sweet time, and it is doing that, and we still have a lot of time for this. Remember that pressures all across the tropical Atlantic right now are well below normal, 3 to 4 millibars below normal over much of this area. So the air is buoyant, and although the MJO is still mostly in a downward phase for the Atlantic, the convection is starting to increase, and there are chances for this down the road. The GFS still likes this system. This is day 8 over here, brings it into the Bahamas. We'll see what happens. I still don't want to speculate too much on the track west of 60 west over here, because the pattern is very fragile in this area right now. The models can't handle the pattern very well, but again, I don't think this is recurving. I do think this is coming west, and if it develops into something, will threaten somebody in here eventually. Just some landmass in the western Atlantic would probably see a landfall from this, whether it be a tropical wave or a tropical storm or whatever. I don't think this is recurving out to sea. The Canadian was back to an out to sea run this morning, but it had something developing too far to the north and bringing it on an unrealistic track, so I'm discounting that. And here's the MJO. Look at the upward motion map over here. You can see the MJO is focused over here in the Indian Ocean, but check it out. Look at some greens popping up in our area of the world, and the browns are very much less in here, far less than they were. And remember, the GFS was showing the MJO remembering in a strong, it had the whole hammer, just big red paint bomb over here on the upward motion map, huge downward motion through mid-August, and I condemned this as wrong, said that this would try to creep back and that as soon as the downward motion colors came in they would start to weaken as we got into August, and you can see that they're already weakening, weak browns with some greens already showing up, meaning that the MJO is right on the doorstep again, going to eventually back in here in our area of the world during the next couple of weeks, and this downward motion is not going to be as intense as the model forecasted and will not be as limiting of a factor on tropical development as the model thought. Now here are global sea surface temperatures measured by satellite since 2002 on this graph compared against Nino 3.4 region in the Central Pacific sea surface temperatures 3 and 60-day averages, and notice that the Nino regions, the Central Pacific Nino regions, have gone down a lot sharper and faster than the global overall sea surface temperatures are, and the global temperatures overall are still much higher above the Pacific. And notice that the only other La Nina that we had in this graph since 2002 was 2007, and they pretty much went down in tandem. And my idea with this is that if you've got the global still up here, and you've got the Nino region still way down here, and we're crashing to a La Nina, one of the fastest crashes that we've ever recorded. And if this is crashing down this fast, my idea is that it takes the floor right out of the heat that got built up from the last El Nino. You see the El Nino up here built up a bunch of heat, but you get this to crash and get way below the global. It means that there's still heat to get rid of, but the Pacific is already dead. It's already down there. So there's still a lot of heat that has to be gotten rid of. And if we look over here, here's the big La Nina, and the Pacific is dead. The heat is focused here and here and in here, and the heat up here can't be really used until the winter time because it's used for baroclinic storm development in the winter. Same with all the warm water up here. So where can this heat be used and gotten rid of? And in the northern hemisphere, the most efficient way to do that is in the tropics via tropical cyclones and tropical convection. You can see that the areas that we could do that would be in here. But the Indian Ocean is of course dead until the fall because of their monsoon, so their season ends during summertime. And this up here is not allowing this to focus as much, and the Western Pacific is having one of the slowest starts on record. The Central Pacific is completely dead. I wouldn't be surprised to see no storms at all in the Central Pacific. The Eastern Pacific is getting a little bit of an activity right now with a strong invest, but they are behind schedule with 4 storms and will likely end up normal to below normal, probably below normal by the end of the season. So this is dead. This can't do much. So where can the heat be used? Well, the Atlantic looks like the nice choice over here. We got the largest deviations from normal, above normal, in sea surface temperatures in the tropics in the world right now, and there's a lot of heat here that can be released, and the proof that it's being released is right here. We have the lowest sea level pressures in the world in a tropical basin right now. They're a little low out here, but they're not. Notice the weaker monsoon as well over here with higher pressures over India, but this is not that low, pretty much normal in here, and again not getting used for tropical cyclone development. Pacific is completely dead with higher than normal pressures everywhere because of the cold water and sinking air. And here we are focusing upward motion, low pressures and warm water in here, showing that we are the basin to favor for a bursting in tropical activity this year. Global ACE, which is accumulated cyclone energy, will remain likely below normal this year and will remain low globally. But in the Atlantic, if you can get one basin to fire, remember, even if the Atlantic has a hyperactive year, that won't raise global ACE that much. Global activity will remain low because we contribute not that much to it. But if you can get it to burst in one basin, and this would be the basin to burst in, we're easily the target for this season. So everyone should be ready for this. We are still favored globally. If anyone is going to get it, we're going to get it this year. So it's something we need to be ready for and aware of. So we'll continue watching for colon. Again, this is not a huge concern immediately and will be taking its time, but if it gets up in here, someone's going to have to watch out the northern islands, and Puerto Rico I think will have to watch this. And then once it comes even further somewhere into this area, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. These waves tend to develop farther west. Remember, Bonnie came all the way across, did not develop until she got into this area over here east of the northern Caribbean. So this is the area that needs to be watched. Not a huge concern right now, but folks should watch this for a possible long-range threat in this area right here. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.